the motion failed for lack of a second.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Smith.
that's
Any
it.
other edits? All right, a motion had been made. Does someone want to make a new motion, including the edits that Mr. Smith just outlined?
I'll make a motion that we accept approval with the recommendations from Mr. Smith to change it.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded to accept the minutes from January 7, 2026 with the edits that Mr. Smith provided. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, we'll accept the minutes. All right, moving on to new business. First off is case number SU 12-25-1, Hal Meyer, special use permit, and this is the second workshop. Hal Meyer has applied for a special use permit to convert an existing single-family home to a duplex on property identified as 4185 Orange Road and further identified as Madison County Tax Map 57-118B. The subject property is zoned agriculture A1 and is 1.489 acres. A duplex is a special use permit in the A1 zoning district under the Madison County Code of Ordinances, Appendix 1, Article 4-2-18. Mr. Nichols, any other details on this case?
Nothing too complicated on this one, Chairman Whitman. Simple brick ranch-style home is being proposed for a duplex. Neither VDOT nor VDH expressed any objections during preliminary development. This one was pretty straightforward on the first workshop as well, so nothing further to add.
Perfect. Any comments from the panel up here on the case before we go to the candidate? Is Mr. Meyer here? There you
Mr.
are.
Meyer, sir.
Hey, Al. Anything to add from your end? All right, questions for the candidate or for Mr. Nichols on this case? All right, y'all are making this one pretty easy. All right, seeing none. Public comment, are there any public comments specific to this one case? Anything online? Seeing none. All right, Mr. Meyer, hopefully the rest of the night goes this easily too. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to the second case of the night. Case number SU-12-25-2, Eden Ridge, special use permit. This is also a second workshop. Stephen Found, on behalf of Leonard and Lori Peters, has applied for a special use permit seeking an event venue on property identified as 868 Novum Church Road and further identified as Madison County Tax Map 24-38. The subject property is zoned A1, agriculture, and is 152.624 acres. An event venue is a special permit use in A1 zoning district under Madison County Code of Ordinances, Appendix 1, Article 14-18. Mr. Nichols?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So since our last workshop, when the applicant explained their proposal, I have drafted a potential permit should you choose to recommend approval. The criteria in this one is quite similar to other event venues that we've done by citing our ordinance. The exception being that we pulled item 6 out of the information the applicant provided, which expresses the cutoff times for outdoor amplified music, as well as item 7, which I'd like to explain. I'm going to pull up an illustration here for you. So item 7 requires the applicants to direct traffic leaving the venue out of Novum Church Road to take a left out of the property and head south towards Hoover Road. The purpose of this is to avoid what I believe is a dangerous intersection. I rode around up there, so the Peters property is here. The event venue is in mostly the northeast corner there. So as one is departing on Novum Church, you should have to take a left out of there because, and I'll get another illustration pulled up here in a second, there's I believe it's an old store at the intersection of Novum Church and Novum Road, which you can't see but about 30 feet if you're trying to look left there. I typically am not worried about traffic issues, but this is egregious enough that I felt compelled to recommend a condition for traffic control on this particular application. Beyond that, I know the Planning Commission did have some lingering questions from the last workshop, and I would encourage you to engage in that discussion with the applicant.
Mr. Nichols, has VDOT looked at this job?
VDOT will look at this job during the site plan phase. Mr. Nguyen appeared at Preliminary Development Review Committee and expressed that if a commercial entrance were installed on the property and cars could leave the travel way of the roadway, that there would be no issue in volume. What we've learned about how VDOT evaluates traffic is that until you get about 5,000 trips per day, they don't raise an eyebrow. So at the scale of what's been proposed, I don't see this coming up on VDOT's radar. They did not seem very concerned at preliminary development.
So what would have to be involved to be able to go, to make a right-hand turn instead of a left-hand turn? Site
I mean,
distance?
you could do it now.
You
That's,
could
I
do
mean,
it-
VDOT may very well permit them to do it now. I was just taking a common sense approach and making a recommendation.
I understand.
All right, are there further questions or discussion, especially to the 10 new, and these are not technically proffers that you just showed, they're just.
No, these are conditions
guiding
of the
conditions.
permit, and it's stuff that's right out of our ordinance, and it's for clarity's sake of both the applicant and the general public that outlines what these permits are for. It's for an event venue. It is an indefinite permit, which it is by default anyway in the ordinance unless expressed otherwise. You have to conform to the concept that you presented. If you're going to deviate from that, you need to come back and amend your special use permit, which is subject to another public hearing. If you do not perform the activity for 2 years, then your permit expires. These are all things that are in our ordinance anyway. We're just clarifying for all the parties involved.
And I will say, for some of the general public in the room that maybe hasn't had a chance to read the packet, reading through these as it's on the screen right now will probably aid and assist with some of the questions you may have in public comments later. So can we leave that on the screen for?
I will, and if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'm going to pull up there is a Google Earth view which illustrates the corner that I'm talking about pretty well. Here we go. So y'all can see what I'm talking about if you've not driven up there. And I would encourage you all to do so. Hang on, let me figure out where I'm at. Nova. It's this one right here. So this is the intersection I was talking about, because if you're pulling out, if you leave the property and go to the north, and you pull up to this intersection, you'll be facing this direction. So you look right, it's okay. You look left, the old store's in the way, and you don't have much sight line. So this was the only safety concern I had with anything on the project, was if a guest had departed to the north.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Questions from the panel to Mr. Nichols before we go to the applicant? Seeing none. If y'all would like to do a presentation, and Mr. Nichols, would you indulge them as well, going through the since we have a pretty large public showing tonight?
Sure.
Maybe going through the presentation if you have a couple moments? If you feel useful. If not, a brief overview will help probably.
Stacy's gone.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephen Found, and I am representing Lori and Leonard Peters for the application this evening, a special use permit at 868 Novum Church Road. And I just wanted to reiterate the fact that we're very excited about the opportunity to stand here this evening and engage in conversation and dialogue with the planning board and the public. We acknowledge the conditions that Mr. Nichols has diligently presented on the draft permit. As you know, the application is two-phased. venue, ultimately resulting in a structure that would fit in with the landscape in terms of an event venue barn. We're looking at a year and a half or so before that would actually come to be. Initially, we'd be looking at a tent that would be rented by a bride and a groom who would come, or any other type of event that might occur on the premises. Our proposal states that we would limit the number of participants in any given event to 200. That fits with all of the ordinances and activities that we've looked at and have acknowledged to this point. Ultimately, I am not a lawyer. I'm not an agent per se. I'm just a friend of Leonard and Lori, and I actually met them at a wedding a couple months ago, and we hit it off right away and discovered that they had a real desire to provide hospitality to folks who might want to get married, or folks who wanted a placid environment to be able to have an event. And the thing that struck me about Leonard was that he's an arborist, he cares about the land, and he cares about preserving what he has. And that's impressive to me, because I know a lot of folks are turning big property into a lot of houses these days. And I was very excited to be able to come alongside of the Peters and to do what I do best, which is hospitality ultimately. Our goal and our business, if you will, in this particular instance is not to be rude, is not to be offensive, it's not to be inhospitable, it's to be all everything but that. And if we don't achieve those purposes, then ultimately we're not going to do our job and we're not going to have a business. It is my hope as we move forward to work with the Peters as the venue manager. We would also bring along the network that I have of professionals who would be able to come alongside the Peters and to provide professional and top flight services for the events that we would intend to have. We can't really say how many events there would be since we haven't started to market the venue or anything along those lines. We hope for the best, but we also realize that our main goal here is to be good neighbors. Ultimately, the thing that Leonard and I had in common right away was faith in God, and ultimately part of that faith meant that we needed to be good neighbors. And so in our proposal, which we're happy to provide a copy to anybody who hasn't had a chance to read it after the meeting, we in essence bend over backwards to try to provide every opportunity to be as invisible as possible. That would include berms, that would include plantings, that would mask the view to the actual venue itself, down-facing lights so that we would limit the light pollution, if you will, and ultimately speaker arrangements and configurations that would keep the sound and the noise that would impact the neighborhood to a minimum as well. Ultimately, we're trying to be good neighbors, but ultimately also trying to establish a business that really helps families, helps start families, and helps provide an environment that's peaceful and an enjoyable experience for all. So, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Found. At this time, does the committee have any questions directly for the applicant or Mr. Found? No questions at all?
I guess I got one question. I read some of the letters that's been sent to the planning commission. One of the letters I read that said that there was a creek there apparently that's in the floodplain that can get out of control pretty quickly. You intend to do anything to the road going in there, or you'll pretty much use it like it is?
Well, that's a good question, and I forgot to mention that because that was brought up last time in terms of an emergency if something flooded or the bridge got covered. And we're looking into a secondary access road or an emergency access road off of Hoover Road. We don't have our engineer with us this evening. He's at a track meet for his grandkids, but ultimately that's something that we're exploring. We're also exploring opportunities for the driveway itself to just make it easier to access coming and going. Ultimately, the commercial entryway that was mentioned creates a wider neck, if you will, into the property to allow two cars to pass on the driveway. So yeah, we're looking into how best we can provide an emergency egress access to the property.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Found, what's the feasibility of using that, what you're referring to as possibly an emergency access off of Hoover Road as the primary entrance to that venue space?
I wouldn't be necessarily prepared to speak to the feasibility of that in terms of what VDOT might say and all of the other, organizations and activities that would need to be consulted for that. So it's certainly something that we'd be willing to look at, but I couldn't speak to the feasibility of that, at this moment. Certainly something we'd be happy to look into and bring back information for you if that's something that you're interested in.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if you guys had considered it as just a secondary entrance or had possibly considered it as a primary.
Yeah, we haven't really gotten that deep into it. After our last meeting, when it was brought up, is what happens if there's an event going on and suddenly a thunderstorm happens and the bridge floods? Good question. I don't know what happens, but then we said, hey, the idea of having additional access to the property, we had talked about that. And there is already an existing access point to the property off of Hoover Road, so it looks like it's something that could be explored. And certainly Leonard and Lori are willing to look at adding that into the formula if it makes for comfort and ease for everybody.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I noticed that you mentioned again the idea of the berms and plantings for visual buffering. I don't see it anywhere in the application or in the conditions. Is that something you would be willing to write into it?
Oh, sure, it should be. I thought it was in the proposal itself.
I couldn't find it. It may be.
Okay, yeah, it's certainly something that we've discussed, and that's part of a plan that we would want that, not necessarily just in reaction to, other concerns, but we would want to provide that too. So, yeah, we'd be happy to, I mean, if I can speak for Leonard, yeah. We'd be happy to add that in to a condition.
Very good.
And I'll just make a comment, and with lack of a noise ordinance in our county, these voluntary offers or conditions really go a long way, so.
Good.
Yeah, I think that'd be.
That's our intent.
Any additional questions for the applicant or Mr. Nichols? All right, seeing none, and I'm going to ask, 3 minutes, is that where we're limiting to, Mr. Chair? 3 minutes, okay. For public comments, which I expect we have a few coming up, again, please approach the microphone, state your name and your, not address, but your place of living, your city. And if you can, please limit them to 3 minutes. And we'll kind of start with that. So, any public comment? I should already have one.
Good evening. My name's Donald Stallworthy. My wife and I live on Novum Church Road. I wrote these down so I'd stay on time. Okay. According to the Planning Commission's guidelines, when reviewing an application, it must consider, and we would argue state explicitly for the discoverable record, its consideration each of the factors. Compatibility, whether the business activity is compatible with adjacent land uses in terms of noise, traffic hours, dust, light, etc. Visual impact, adequacy of screening, buffering, building materials, sighting, minimize visibility, traffic and access, capacity of roads, mitigate traffic impacts, safety of ingress, egress, acceleration, deceleration. These are important criteria. You as commissioners must have impartial validated information upon which to act. Diligence demands that validated information be provided to commissions and commissioners before any further consideration of this application is taken. Based on the application, what you're hearing tonight, you have information, some of it speculative, some empirical, not scientifically validated. What do I mean? The application in its current form is speculative, filled with some promises and statements. It doesn't provide the commissioners with the concrete information upon which to base a decision. A decision has to be in the best interest of the homeowners, the applicants, adjacent landowners. Okay? To properly inform the commissioners in their recommendation, the application should have at least 3 studies, paid for by the applicant, not the taxpayer. These studies would address traffic impacts, such as intersections, blind corners, speed limits, horse riders, pedestrians, cyclists, on all the Novum Church Road, Novum Road, Hoover Road, Ridgeview Road, all impacted. The Institute of Traffic Engineers has an extensive list of firms that conduct this work. It doesn't have to be done by VDOT. It can be done ahead of time and figured out what it's actually going to be and where traffic should run. Economic impacts, what are they? How much revenue is going to be generated? How much public resources are going to be taken up? Fire, ambulance, law enforcement? How much employment? What will be the impact on land values? Environmental impacts. There's not been one discussion about the aquifers, okay? The current volume of use on these aquifers needs to be studied. We need to know the impact of a business on the local aquifers, okay? We don't know what they are. Well depths are different, flow rates are different. The question of whether or not this commercial activity will cause local wells to run dry has to be answered first before things begin. Dust. It's a one-lane gravel road, and it generates dust. And by the way, everybody turning left is going to bury my house in dust, okay? Too much dust harms livestock, crops, humans, wildlife, and it kills bees, okay? Bees are already in decline. Now we're going to put more dust there. Interestingly, the Virginia Administrative Code covering airborne emissions includes acceptable dust levels. They consider dust a problem and should be controlled. Okay? Too much dust is going to harm equipment and HVAC systems. Noise. Acceptable decibel levels. Without a noise ordinance, noise is completely subjective. Okay? This is a recipe for conflict among the neighbors. Light. What are the acceptable lumen levels? That hasn't been studied. Lumen levels, what's acceptable will drive design, placement, sites, barriers, et cetera. That hasn't been studied. The American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists has rigorous standards. There are hundreds of firms that the applicant could hire and study it and give facts to the commissioners to decide. Finally, this venue, hasn't been stated, will introduce additional hazards from guests who consume alcohol and then drive, oftentimes in the dark on a narrow one-lane gravel road with blind corners, ditches, and hazardous entrance and exit onto Hoover or Novum roads. It will generate trespassing issues, as the volume of traffic on this road will force cars to pull off on other people's land or into their driveways. Backing up is not an option. And for those that run agricultural, back up a hay trailer. You read it in the letter, okay? Property owner rights are going to be violated on this road. Finally, I'm trying not to get too emotional on this one. Our neighbor, Ryan Webb, is autistic. He rides his horses accompanied by his dogs almost every day through this area. His interactions with those of us that walk the road contribute to his ability to cope with his challenges. The impact this proposal will have on this young man's life matters more than money. Matters more than money. This is his life. He should not be asked as an autistic person to figure out when he can ride safely. Okay? He should not. So, therefore, I ask that the commissioners recommend to deny this application in its current form, and if it's resubmitted, to be submitted with the studies that are impartial and scientifically based. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Additional public comment?
Good evening. My name is Steve Kilpatrick. I live on Novum Church Road. There are two issues I'd like to address tonight. The first one is the rights of property owners for the peaceful enjoyment of their property. And I know that's important to me and it's important to the applicants, but what I wondered is how does that fit in with what Madison County wants? How do they view this particular item? I went and looked at the Madison County Code of Ordinances, the Madison County Comprehensive Plan, and I looked at the proposed Rural Services Contractor Use Special Permit to see how that is addressed. The common thread that I found in all of those documents is that Madison County values a quiet rural setting and the rights of property owners for the peaceful enjoyment of their property. If you look even at the Eden Ridge application, they tout the property as being a quiet rural setting. Well, when their activities are going on music, light, so forth, that's not going to be a quiet rural setting. The first thing I looked at in the Madison County Code of Ordinances, it talks about the standards for issuing special use permits. And it says that the use shall not tend to change the character and established pattern of development in the area in which it wishes to locate. But I'd submit that a wedding venue with lights, noise, additional traffic would certainly change the character of our neighborhood. The second thing I looked at was the economic development plan of Madison County that's included in the comprehensive plan. And it says that tourism-related proposals will be considered on a case-by-case basis and evaluated on their specific impacts on traffic, noise, light, natural resources, and nearby property owners. And this particular evaluation of any SUPs certainly should take that into account. And then finally, I looked at I noticed in the last meeting y'all looked at a proposed rural services contractor's use special permit. And it stated in there that the goal was to safeguard the beauty, peace, and integrity of its natural landscape. And there was a question there that said this question needs to be answered. Do the conditions of the SUP protect neighbors' peace, view sheds, and property enjoyment? And so looking at all these things, it's clear to me that the peaceful enjoyment of people's property is clearly a priority of Madison County. And so I would hope that that would be considered in this SUP application. I was at the last meeting y'all had on January the 7th, the joint meeting, and I know one of the Board of Supervisors members talked a lot about property rights. And let's see, he said, your property rights end where mine begins. And then he said, will what you do with your property increase the taxes on my property or decrease its value? And the decrease of value is something that I have a concern about. There's a farm that adjoins the property that's being proposed here, and the wedding venue is only going to be 50 yards off that property line. And that particular property owner is in a nursing home. She has no say of what happens there. And more than likely, she's going to have some heirs that are going to inherit that property. And if they want to sell that property, having a wedding venue 50 feet off of their property line is certainly potentially going to decrease the value of their property. But the bottom line of all this to me is that the approval of this SUP will cause at least 30 neighborhood property owners to forfeit their peaceful enjoyment of their property for the benefit of one. So that needs to be considered. I was going to also mention one thing about the unsafe nature of Novum Church Road. The change that you mentioned about having people turn left would certainly affect what I was going to say, because I'm to the right. If they turn right and go out, my property is at the top of the hill. The people coming to the venue will certainly probably come down my way. If you turn left off of Novum Road onto Novum Church Road, it's paved all the way until you get to the end of the property of Novum Church, Baptist Church. It then abruptly turns into a gravel dirt road as it's going down a hill. If somebody that's unfamiliar with that road comes driving through there at 35 miles an hour, crests that hill, and God forbid Ryan Webb is there on his horse, or a hay wagon is there pulled by a tractor, that's going to be very dangerous. It's right there in front of my property. Every time I come home and come over that hill, you have to creep over and make sure nobody's coming. So that's an important thing that I think needs to be brought up. But the fact is that Novum Church Road is just not meant to have an increase in traffic levels that you're talking about. But I would like to invite all the members that are here present and all the Board of Supervisors members to please come out and drive that road and take a look for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Denise Webb, and I know a couple of you guys. I am Brian Webb's mom. I've lived in Madison County my entire life. My son's autism shouldn't decide whether or not this goes through, but we need to think about how it's going to affect him. I'm spending sleepless nights right now. He's met Mr. Peters. He thinks Mr. Peters is a cool person. But what my concern is that roadway. That road is very, very dangerous. There's been times where I've almost been run over top of by a dump truck coming around that corner where Mr. Nichols is saying, go to the left. Okay, that's a good option. Also, 200 cars on this little narrow road. There's about 30 cars that go through in a course of a day, and it gets so mucky and marred out when there's rain. Call VDOT, hey, we would like to get some gravel. VDOT won't even come out and put gravel down on our road, okay? Last spring, I was taking my time coming in, the road was so bad, it pulled me into the ditch. And I had already called for gravel, and it was never purchased, never brought out to be put on the road. So that is something to think about. There's lots of places in this road where you've got to pull over onto an area to let them through. You have people that's going to be coming into the area that does not know anything about the road. They're going to go barreling down, there comes a tractor. There's a cow out, and it happens constantly. We are all neighbors. We all look out for one another. I'm not telling Mr. Peters how to run his property or what to do with it. It's his property. My suggestion, go over on Hoover Road. You won't have the problem with all the traffic coming in. I mean, you need also think about safety. On Sundays, when Novum Church has church, I don't allow Ryan to ride because it's more traffic that day. Once I know church is over, then I'll let him ride. But I should not have to go, okay, is there an event today? And he can't ride. The road is open to anyone. It doesn't state that you can't ride a horse. It doesn't state you can ride a bike. He's not the only one that rides a horse on this road. There's multiple people that ride. There are walkers galore. There are people riding bikes through there. So we don't need to think about whether or not, people can get in there. We need to think about the long-term part of it. Now, something I'm going to finish on. So the people are coming out. They're using their GPS in their car, a map in the car. How many of you think that when someone comes to my house that they put my address in and they can come directly to 470 Novum Church Road? They can't. Why? It doesn't even show up. So think about that. So they're going to be coming out to the venue, and it's going to take them down Ridgeview, down Novum Road, then to Novum Church. It's tit for tat. So think about that part of it. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. And just a reminder to please speak into the mic so we can hear it online as well. Thanks, sir.
I'm Mike Consino. I live in 760 Novum Church Road, which is right next to the property. I think I got it here. I think so. All right. Thanks. So I moved here 9 years ago, built the property, built a house on the property. And the reason for coming here was to move from Massachusetts and to have the atmosphere and the environment that was pretty quiet. And so my concern about this, first and foremost, personally, is the noise level, okay? I read through the proposal, and there are a lot of very vague suggestions of low impact, sound strictly controlled, and preserve the rural character. And having been here 9 years now, I can't see how this is not going to have an impact on the character of the neighborhood and all the houses around there. The road, everybody's talked about Novum Church Road, and I agree, for me, there aren't that many cars that come down there. But anytime I pass someone coming the other direction, you have to pull off either into somebody's driveway to get out of the way. And there have been occasions where we've had to go get a tractor and pull some people out of the gutters that happen to get stuck unknowingly that there's a gutter there. And so that's one thing. And with all the people that are going to be coming through there, I'm a little concerned about some vandalism, potential vandalism. It's not like there's a lot of police presence there. And so if someone goes past my driveway, they see the American flag there in the driveway, and they decide that this is not something that they like, they could just do something about that. And there are horses that are along there that could run into the fence, they could break the fence. So I'm concerned about all the traffic, and the road is not made for this kind of situation. And so if you're suggesting to come in from West Hoover Road, then it should be something more than, I think we'll just think about it or we'll consider that. I think there should be a real determination as to whether or not that is viable and whether that's going to be part of the plan. All right. And Novum Church Road itself is part of, down in the lower part of our property, it's a floodplain. And when it rains during the summer and we have those heavy showers, that gets flooded. So if you don't have another way out of there, then it could be a problem. But anyway, so those are my feelings about it. This is going to change the character of the neighborhood completely, in my opinion. And I think the noise and all the traffic is going to be a change in the whole character of what I'm used to, at least from the past 9 years, of like listening to the cows, which is probably the most noise I hear for the most part. So, thank you.
Point of privilege, Mr. Chairman. Would the gentleman state his name, please, for the record? Sir.
Michael Concino, C-O-N-C-I-N-O.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm Sarah Henshaw, and we own the farm right across from the Peters. And my concern is my husband and my sons do a lot of farming and use that road for access to other properties that we have where we use hay, we have cattle we feed, and it's a lot of traffic on the road now, so he's dodging and whatnot to get to the fields. So I'm concerned about all the traffic that's going to be on the road. And I'm like the rest of the people here. It's a neighborhood that's very quiet, and the people that live there are retirees or people that work from home, and they've come there for quietness. And I just hate to see it ruined. So that's just my thought on it. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Any additional public comment? Do well.
I'm Phil Hawkins, and I joined in property owner with the Peters. I don't agree with coming out on West Hoover Road. That is not a safe intersection. When you come out on West Hoover Road, if you look to the right, you're on the vertical. Cars coming up the hill, coming into that intersection, you're coming up on at least a 10 to 12% grade. I've used that intersection. It's difficult to get out of. You put traffic in there, I mean, it can be fixed. You can bring the intersection back, level it out to get it where you get up to the intersection, you're setting at the same grade as the road. But you're not now. You're setting like this, and you're looking on the vertical to the right. I wish all these people that were here that worried about the traffic would have been here 40 years ago when we were standing here opposing the subdivision being built. It didn't do any good. We still got the traffic, and we still got the people. And we're not going to stop it. It's coming. One of the questions, I didn't see the site plan, so I don't know exactly where the venue is going to be. I thought it's up next to the existing dwelling. Is that where it's proposed? Yes, sir. Well, I don't care what road you come off of, West Hoover Road, as long as you don't, there's no way you can get to that property road crossing Deep Run. When you cross Deep Run, you in the Army Corps of Engineers, you got permits, you better be looking at $500,000 to get a pipe across that road. My other question, the existing culvert across the road now, I don't think meets specifications for the capacity of the water coming down that creek now. If you get a hard rain, your water's gonna come up and it's designed to flow across it, sheet flow across it. You're putting contaminants in the creek. You're going across that bridge every day. You could be dropping oil, gas, anything on that. You get a rain, where's that all going? Right straight down the stream. It's a lot of things, and you know, I just hope when y'all do the site plan, I want to look at it, it's all considered. The size of the culvert, what has been engineered, designed to carry the water down that creek, your floodplain, the stormwater management runoff on the existing parking lot is all being added to it. And one other comment I gotta make, I Googled, I'm proud of myself. I Googled how many event venues within 10 miles of Riva. It come back and it says dozens. How many event venues within Riva area? 180. Do we need another venue? I mean, it's pretty risky. I mean, financially, if you're gonna come across that creek and all the other venues, get involved with some money. But let's just make sure we get it right. The driveway going into the property should be increased to handle the traffic. The culvert across the creek should be considered. Is that capable? Which if it's engineered, I don't think will take the amount of water that comes down Deep Run. And don't ask us taxpayers to widen Novum Church Road. You know, if somebody wants to develop something, let the developer pay for the cost to do those things. Don't come ask me to pay for it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm Jeremiah Hawkins. My land adjoins Mr. Peters here. I live at 5591 West Hoover Road. The Deep Run is on my property, runs through my property. My grandparents lived there for 50 years. I've been there, I've lived there myself now 10. When they get flash floods up there, that is a floodplain, that water does get out, and it gets out quick and in a hurry. That's one of my concerns, is safety concerns for the individuals who are going to be attending the venue with the water. I've seen it firsthand. My other concern is the noise. Mr. Peters' house, if I go to my back door, I look, his house is facing the back of my house. Deep Run is in a valley. Sound travels down a valley. Now, I'm approximately 800 yards from Mr. Peters' house. But I don't want to have to hear live music going on. I enjoy the peaceful and tranquility there that I have now. And another thing I'm concerned about is they said to do an emergency exit on Route 609 on the Hoover Road. Well, you still have to cross Deep Run regardless. It doesn't matter. And then also in crossing off 609, there's other small estuaries and valleys in there that are going to need to have culvert pipes, and they're going to need to be maintained as well to get the road in there. And from that point there to where he's want to put the venue, it's quite a distance. I don't know how far it is, but it's quite a distance. So I'm just voicing, that's my areas of concern. I've lived here, like I said, me and my family, we've been here ever since the county was founded in 1749. And I don't want to see, don't get me wrong, I'm not against change. Change is a good thing. But as far as peaceful and quiet, that's why I'm there. That's why I purchased a house from my grandparents. And I call it my home. And I just don't, the noise is one area of concern that it needs to be addressed. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Christy Hawkins. I just want to add a couple comments to what my husband said. And that is where the other exit that has been suggested to be used as the main entrance is directly right beside our property line that comes onto Hoover Road. And that is where we have our garden, that's where we have our barn. And so if we're up there gardening, we'll just be covered in dust all weekend. I think a lot of the others that got up and spoke said it very well. They've already expressed all the same concerns that I have. But I think as, a private individual, it's our land that we enjoy. I have a child, we have animals, and it makes me uncomfortable to know that there will be people coming from Lord knows where, driving right next to my property where my child is and my dog and where we enjoy our home. That makes me uncomfortable, and also with what other person mentioned was the alcohol factor, and all of that going on right beside our property, where people would be traveling in and out. But I think everyone else said it well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments specific to this case? Public comments? Okay, seeing none. Any final comments or questions to Mr. Nichols, the applicant? Or general questions? Oh, any online? Nothing? No chatter at all?
I do have just a kind of general comment, but I'm going to address it towards you, Mr. Nichols. And you can answer it or not or whatever, but you did point out, or was pointed out, that that Novum Road and Novum Church Road, I believe, intersection was a concern for you. But I've been down that road a bunch of times, and it is a particularly small, like narrow road. I've been down through the bottom in the wintertime when it's frozen. There is kind of a floodplain down there. And it'll, I was probably going too fast, too. It was pretty wild. But do you have other concerns? There's quite a few other blind turns and different things in the road in general.
I mean, in my opinion, we have lots of roads in the county that are
Lots.
windy, that are tight, that have steep ditches. We cannot protect everyone from everything. We have to have some level of reasonableness in how we proceed in evaluating these things. So I did drive up there, and I went around a bunch of the intersections coming to and from the property. Ran into one of the neighbors while I was there. We had a great talk. But I was thinking about it, and you're right. There are some areas in there where you're going to have to pull to the side of the road and wait for somebody to come the other way. It's like that in some of the mountain properties too, where you've got your short-term rental cabins and things where people are coming and going and they're not from here. I think it's just part of going out in the country. There's going to be some of that. And I think that some of that is acceptable because in general, especially when you have some of the equestrian uses up there, those folks generally want the gravel road. They generally want it to not be so welcoming of everybody cutting the corner through there. The way I balance that is that there's 7 days in a week. So, how many days are they, let's say, does the applicant plan on operating? And based on that, what is the impact? That's for you to consider. But are there tight spots in the road? Yes. The only spot that I felt was seriously problematic was the spot where I had to roll down the window in the truck and listen to see if you hear tires coming before you pull out and hope no one's there. So that's why I brought it up. Otherwise, I don't think I've recommended that for any other project coming through here. We got plenty of tight roads.
Yeah, agreed. And the roads typically come up, and we have plenty of very relatively unsuitable roads. I absolutely hate coming down to 5 Points there, Carpenter's Mill Road, coming out, heading that, taking that left, and that's a relatively major intersection. So I kind of consider that stuff with these applications, but
That one is a dangerous intersection.
it is a dangerous intersection, and people are going fast. So I always consider that, but out of all the roads and all the small areas around Madison, this one is particularly in the direction of being very narrow, multiple locations of blind turns, especially when you're popping down from Novum Church Road, coming down the hill there. I've been caught by surprise a little bit. So anyway, I just was curious why you pointed out the one, where you did take note of the one
That was
intersection.
the only one that caught my eye as being a real problem. The rest of them is just back roads in general.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the applicant, if I could. When you build your barn or your building, is that gonna be an enclosed building all the way around, or is it gonna be a pavilion?
It's going to be enclosed probably with a small pavilion also.
Pardon me, Mr. Peters.
Where I'm trying to go with this, sir, is, for the music, I'm gonna see if it's gonna be outside music or enclosed music. If you're gonna have a pavilion to play music under, or you're gonna be in a closed building where most of the music would be in a closed building. And I know you're gonna use a tent to get started with.
Yes, sir.
Are they gonna have sides on it where it cuts down some of the sound?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And if we make it to the barn venue, it'll be inside speakers and stuff like that. Yes, sir.
No outside music?
No, sir. No, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Peters, I may put you on the spot and have you stay there. But any final questions from the applicant and Mr. Nicholas?
Mr. Chairman, I do. Thanks.
That's public.
So, have you done any kind of analysis? I mean, I haven't got married in a long time, so I'm wondering, when wedding venues, particularly on weekends, what time of day does that normally happen? I don't know if you've investigated that. Are they generally at night, or are they generally in the afternoons, or do you have any idea?
Probably later evening, probably in exiting at nighttime, so.
Any ideas about how, I mean, I don't know, weddings go on for 2 hours, an hour, 4 hours, just a general, I don't know. I mean,
That's a really good question, and I think it's important too. You're not going to see anything before noon. You certainly, typically 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock is a start time, and then maybe a couple of hours for a reception afterwards, that sort of thing. Ultimately, when you talk about the traffic and in and out, you're talking about an hour before the event and an hour after the event is probably the impact of cars coming in. And I did think it was important to mention that we didn't say 200 cars, we said 200 people, which would still is cars. I'm not minimizing the number of cars, but it would be typically a parking lot for 75 cars. So there's a bit of a difference between 75 and 200, but we would see, a 4 o'clock wedding that's over by 5, and then a 2 to 3 hour reception after that, and then everybody's packed up and gone by 9, that sort of thing. Because we've stipulated the 10 o'clock on the weekends and the 9 o'clock noise stoppage during the week. So obviously, we're backing up from there. Some people want to do something a little bit earlier, some people want to do something a little bit later, but I think it's important to note that the end time is usually 45 minutes to an hour before the event, and the same coming out of the event.
are y'all also investigating anything else besides weddings? I mean, when you talk about during the day, during the weekday, what else?
Yeah, I would think that, not every event that happens at the venue would be a noise, band, music situation. There might be a Bible study. There might be, a group of kids come to play, that sort of thing. We would look at every opportunity to utilize the venue. We're certainly in business to use it. But we're also, cognizant of the neighborhood, and we don't want to overdo it because it takes a lot to do each event. And, there are venues in the world that will cram 8 events on a weekend. That's not us. We're trying to have a good balance and a good work-life balance as well. But yeah, we'd be investigating, interesting opportunities, that are very, very low impact at other times. Yeah.
While we're on the side trip and you're there, in your business plan, you have some experience in hospitality. Can you speak to how many events a week or something like that you might be planning? You've already said you don't plan multiple each day, but
Yeah, I would love to be able to predict how many we would have. Someone mentioned that there are other venues and there is competition in the area. So we hope to have our fair share, I guess I would say. And we would hope to present a venue that has offerings that others don't, that would attract folks where others can't. But, you know, it wouldn't be unusual to have one on a Saturday and one on a Sunday. That if we can get to that point, that would be great. We would be very blessed to have that type of attendance at the venue. As far as anything happening during the week, there's no plan that says these are the number that we're going to have during the week. That's more a case of something unique comes along and someone needs a space to do something. But as far as the wedding venue itself, you know, one on a Saturday and one on a Sunday is a lot. That's a lot to put up and to make sure everybody's safe, to make sure everybody gets in and out, and to make sure that the folks that are, you know, paying for the event have the kind of event that they'd like to have. We're not into jamming in too much, you know, on a weekend.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fountain, Mr. and Mrs. Page, I'll apologize a little bit more. Before we move to the next case, because I don't think there are any other questions from the panel. Seeing none. Given the large public showing tonight, if y'all wanted to take the opportunity to address any of the questions that were posed, feel free to do so. If not, that's fine too. I know you offered to hand out the packet after the meeting or via electronic forms after. That may suffice as well. But for the public that's here, we do have a couple more hearings after this or cases after this, so y'all don't have to stay for that if y'all wanted to get on with your lives. But you're also more than welcome to stay for those as well. But in case some leave and you wanted to address them, if your option to address or not. See it?
Yeah, I don't know that I heard too many questions about the venue itself, but I'm happy to answer, and we're always happy to answer any questions that anybody might have. The only thing that I wanted to clarify was the number of vehicles that would be traveling to the property, which I felt was kind of a through line to dust, noise, traffic, you know, all of that sort of stuff. I do think that it's really important to understand that the commercial entry that is proposed and has been discussed isn't so much about having an unlimited number of cars as it is about having the cars that come in and come out to do so safely and to avoid, you know, the jam up on the road that could potentially happen. So I know that we're looking very seriously at that piece of the puzzle. As far as the access, you know, additional Hoover Road, it was why I was reticent to answer feasibility because I didn't really have a sense of where it was on the site map at that moment in time when it was asked. Having heard a neighbor mention its proximity obviously means that we need to think about how that might work so that it could be something that's not a distraction. It's not our goal to steamroll over the neighbors here and to do something regardless of, you know, what's been said. And I really appreciate everybody who came tonight to talk about it because it really helps us to understand at a deeper level, you know, the concerns that are here because we want to be proactive about that sort of thing. And so I really do appreciate the dialogue tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We, comments generally only in this time, yeah. I would say sidebar with if it's for the applicant or a response to that, I'd encourage you to sidebar afterwards, if that's fine with the applicant. Go ahead. One comment, yeah.
I didn't hear anybody mention this, and I didn't actually think of it till now, but directly in front of our house, before you hit that entrance, which is at the end of our property, that's a passing zone. So cars are flying. My neighbor across the street actually got hit pulling into her driveway. So I think that should be considered, that it's actually a passing zone where people would be turning into that entrance if it were to come off Hoover Road.
Thank you.
And will your parking lot be gravel, pavement? What do you plan to use for parking?
That's a good question. Those details, I think, would be worked out as the final site plan if we're able to get to a final site plan would be worked out. There would be financial considerations, dust considerations. I mean, a lot of the things that have been talked about tonight would go into that. Obviously, the crushed gravel look versus the paved look would be a different financial, commitment on that. So I think further study is important as far as runoff is concerned. All of those studies to be determined.
Okay.
I know that's not so helpful, but
Thank you.
This will be the final comment then, if we'll move on. Yeah, please.
Mr. Chairman, point of privilege.
Go ahead,
In
Mr.
the
Nichols.
interest of the public, there is an additional item on the agenda for public comment at the end of the meeting.
Is this, sir, is this specific to this case, or is this toward Madison General,
To this safety issue.
to this specific case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A brief one, please, sir.
Yeah, I disagree because going out on West Hoover Road is not safe. I urge all y'all to go there and ride and go and come up on West Hoover and you tell me it's safe. Now, I know you can take the excuse VDOT says it's not safe. VDOT does not improve any condition until there's a fatality. Is that what we want to do? We want somebody killed before we decide this is an unsafe intersection? You know, I made a comment years ago, and this is a sidebar. I called the sheriff's office and said, hey, it's a vehicle parked, dump truck parked on the side of the road, in the curb, been parked out for 6 months. But we'll send somebody over to investigate. Call me back, what do you want me to do? I can't give a man a ticket. I said, I didn't call you to give a man a ticket. You got a safety problem. Get the truck off the road. And you got a safety problem out. And someone's gonna get hurt. But when someone gets killed, we'll fix the intersection.
Thank you for your comment, sir.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Absolutely. All right, that will be the final comment then on this case. Again, if you are here for general public and you'd like to exit at this time, feel free to do so. Moving on to the next case, case number SU-01-26-1, the Towers LLC, special use permit, first workshop. And I'll let everyone exit for a second before I continue. Where's Stuart? Oh, there you are. All right, the Stewart Squires has submitted an application on behalf of the Towers LLC and Madison Wood Preservers for a special use permit for new wireless communication facility on property identified as Madison County Tax Map 48-25 in accordance with Madison County Zoning Ordinance 14-13. The property is 1.782 acres and is zoned R1. Mr. Nichols?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So just going to preface with tonight, the applicant is here, and they have a presentation that they would like to make that we would be happy to accommodate. And this has gone through all of the preliminary items that has been required in the ordinance. The list is extensive, and so this case was first heard in preliminary development, I believe, in August of '25. So it's taken a while to get here, but I do believe that all of the documents are in order. Let's take a peek here really quick. The property is next to the Wood Preservers, just to the south, off of Highway 29. It is a residential zoned property, and the site plan they've submitted is in pretty complete form. If you haven't had a chance to look at that, please do so. But at this time, if you see fit, I'd like the applicant to give you the presentation, which will give you the overview of the project. They've done a pretty good job of that.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Lori Schweller, attorney with Williams Mullen, representing the applicant, the Towers LLC, which is a joint venture of Vertical Bridge and Verizon Wireless. With me tonight is Stuart Squire, who's managing the project with GDN Sites. And we're requesting your recommendation ultimately of a special use permit for a new wireless communications facility on Frontage Road. This is the location you can see with the red mark alongside Route 29. It's located in a wooded area, which according to your ordinance needs to remain wooded, except for the portion cleared just for the compound. You can see the Madison Wood Preservers facility to the northeast. The service objectives for this proposed communications facility are the town of Madison, 29 Oak Park Road, and other nearby local roads. This site is in between two existing Verizon wireless facilities, one that we call Shelby, which is 1.2 miles to the south, and one called Zeus, 2.25 miles to the northeast. These are towers that you can see along Route 29. And because this tower would be built for Verizon Wireless, it is being sited and in order to fit within the Verizon Wireless network. The zoning map shows you that this small parcel, it's only 1.782 acres, is zoned R1. In the R1, R2, and R3 districts, wireless facilities are limited to 125 feet, but you can see that it abuts industrial property, the wood preservers property, and because it would stay mostly forested, there would only be this cell tower on the property. No home could be built on the parcel. This is showing you the site layout. It's a pretty standard layout for a wireless facility, a 75 by 75 foot lease area that the applicant would lease from the property owner, and within that lease area, a 50 by 50 foot compound. And within that compound would be the monopole and the supporting ground equipment, all of which would be screened by the existing woods there. The setbacks are all met. The setback required is 110% of the height, but if it's using breakpoint technology, it's 110% of the point of the break to the top. And in this case, the 125-foot monopole, that break point is 40 feet from the top, and that means the setback needs to be 110% of 40 feet or 44 feet, and the setback, the closest distance from the pole to the northwest boundary line is 71 feet. All the others are much longer. This is an elevation schematic showing you that the monopole, the single pole galvanized stainless steel matte finish, non-reflective, would require no lights, and in accordance with your zoning ordinance, in addition to Verizon Wireless at the top position, would have to have sufficient strength to accommodate 3 additional wireless providers. And in accordance with your ordinance, Mr. Squire did provide notice to the other wireless providers to let them know we were proposing this project and to ask if they had any plans for any towers within 2 miles, and received no response. We did conduct a balloon test on January 8th. The point of the balloon test is to evaluate visual impact from surrounding properties. A large red balloon is raised to the height of the proposed tower. In this case, it's 125 plus a 4-foot lightning rod, 129. And then photographs were taken from all the locations you see here on the map. The points in red were places where it was visible, and the points in blue were places where it was not visible. But in summary, it is an extremely well-sited facility. Not only is it short and located in trees, but it's simply very well sited, as you'll see from the photographs that we'll show you. So these are photo simulations. These were created by taking photographs of the balloon and then superimposing what the facility will look like. So you can see this location is immediately from the southwest on Frontage Road looking at the site. And there's a circle around where it would be within that clump of trees. This is the view from the west on Main Street. The site was simply not visible from historic Madison. This is the only location where it would be visible, and it's quite far in the distance above the tree line. This is the view from Oak Road Park. That is pretty far away again and just over the tree line. And this is the view from the northeast at Oak Road Park and Duplex Lane. And from the southeast at Oak Road Park and Resettlement Road. from the northeast. On Route 29, it's not visible at all driving north toward Madison, and driving south, this is the view looking south. And then it wasn't visible at all from these locations, southwest on South Frontage Street, northwest on Catherine Street, and South Main Street, or northeast from North Main Street. So we believe that we have complied with all your zoning ordinance requirements. It's located, the proposed project is located on property near industrial uses. It would have minimal impact on adjacent uses. It has great qualities as a site, having lots of wood, so minimal adverse impact on surrounding properties. There are no co-location opportunities available to meet the objective needs, and we can talk about that further if you have questions about that. And it will improve voice, data, and internet to the town of Madison and surrounding areas. And finally, it will provide co-location opportunities for other wireless providers who may want to improve service in this area. And then in terms of conformity with your comprehensive plan, there are two major parts of the plan that are relevant to this application. One is that your plan notes that wireless communications is essential to the community, and it encourages widespread availability of wireless voice and data and internet service. And the other important goal is to minimize the visual impact of such facilities. Even though essential, we want to site them well to minimize their visual impact. And we think that this project does meet both of those goals in your plan. I'm happy to take any questions you might have. We have more information, and we can both answer detailed questions.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation as well. And the photos, I actually admit that I did not see the balloon test, and these photos do a really good job of catching some of us up that missed it. So my first question, if you don't mind, when you talk about serving Madison, the town, and then outlying areas, is there an actual distance or measurement where it will improve service?
That's a great question, and actually this map may help a little bit. So the purpose of this map is to show you the existing closest Verizon wireless towers. They're shown with, this one here is called Zeus. This one down here is called Shelby, and this is the proposed project right here. And the purpose of the project is to provide service in this area. Here's Madison. And also to offload the service at these two sites. These two sites have too much traffic. They're overloaded. So if this tower is built in between them, it not only improves the service in this area, I would say a couple of miles radius, but it also offloads the service that's being provided by these two sites. So the area being served by these two sites is better served. So you have seamless coverage in this area and better service all around.
I would say bluntly, for some of us that live at the base of the mountains or in the mountains, less impact or improvement, probably 5-6 miles away, then this is more on the I-29 corridor.
Well, it's hard to say. It's relatively short. If it were 199 feet, I would say 5 miles is a possibility depending on topography. But when you have something only 125, 5 miles might be a stretch.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. In the package, the Towers LLC, Madison DT Wireless Communication Facility, page 2, you've got your project objectives, and you listed this is going to be 4G, and I'm somewhat curious about why you'd be putting a 4G tower in a sea of 5G.
It has both 4G and 5G.
Okay,
It
so
will
it's
have
just
both.
not included in your description, the 5G.
I believe it is, and in fact, because of the bandwidth used in the area, let's see. Sorry, I'm having trouble seeing it. It may be that we don't refer to it as 5G, but these services include 5G service. So it definitely will have 5G service. As all the Verizon sites do, they all have 4G and 5G.
Kind of building on Jim's question. You say all of the Zeus and the Shelby, they both have 5G already?
My understanding is that Zeus was recently upgraded. This is also in that narrative. Let me make sure I have the correct facts. One of them was recently updated with state-of-the-art 5G.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add about that?
Actually, the lead into my real question, I guess, was that.
Okay.
Is it probable, looking toward the future, that you're phasing out 4G and moving into 5G? Is that what's kind of behind this? I realize that you get greater bandwidth with the 5G and that your 4G towers are pretty much filled right now.
I can't say that's the reason for the proposal. You know, at this point, so many people continue to use 4G that we're not making this proposal as part of a phase-out of 4G. It's really to provide better service in this area for 4G and 5G and to make sure that the existing sites aren't overloaded.
Okay, if I understood correctly, one of the reasons for not, you had some reasons for not co-locating on an existing tower?
Yes, sir.
Having to do with the range?
Yes, sir. We were made aware of an existing county-owned tower, and so, Mr. Nichols, if you go back to that map, there's more information about that. That county-owned tower is very close, only about 2/3 of a mile to the Shelby site. So it would not serve the needs that we've been discussing. It's really close to the southern site. And so here's that co-location opportunity analysis. So there were 2 towers that were brought to our attention. One is a guide tower behind the Sheriff's Department on Church Street. That is too short, and it does not have sufficient structural strength to hold the equipment. And then the other one was the one we were just talking about, the 195 at Hoover Ridge Park. It's just not in the right location for what is needed here because it's too close to the existing southern Verizon site.
Thank you.
I have a question. So this tower, that's a Zeus Tower, is at Brightwood?
The northern one.
Yes, it's at Brightwood. There's a tower that the young farmers have. Does that have anything to do with you folks? It's behind the high school.
Mr. Elliott, that is the Shelby location they're referring to.
Is
They're
that
not
the
talking about what we call Shelby. They're talking
Okay.
about on Fairground Road.
Okay. So what you're trying to do is keep the people coming from Northern Virginia up 29 to drop service from Brightwood to Shelby. It doesn't happen, because that's what happens.
Well, I wouldn't put it quite that way, but
Well,
for
spade's a
anyone,
spade.
anyone traveling on 29 or any of the surrounding roads, we would want to make sure that you didn't drop calls.
Right.
That's one of the problems when you do have those overloaded towers and nothing in between.
Right, because that's a drop zone through there a lot.
And it would apply to anyone living in that area, too. You know, you'd have difficulties if you didn't have sufficient service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant or Mr. Nichols on this one? And again, this is just the first workshop for y'all, so we have one more before the joint meeting. Seeing no questions from the panel. Any public comment on this one? Anything online? Okay, thank you for your
very much.
presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, we have case number Z0A-11-25-01 ordinance amendment. This is the second workshop. The Board of Supervisors has directed Planning Commission to consider the adoption of a rural services/contractor use ordinance to allow for small, medium-scale, low-impact service or contracting businesses in rural areas where such businesses are accessory or compatible with agriculture, forestry, and low-density residential uses. This SUP is intended to support economic opportunity while ensuring protection of rural character, minimizing adverse environmental impacts, and preserving compatibility with adjacent properties. Mr. Nichols, you want to start unpacking it again, or?
Well, I trust that everyone has had a chance to read the proposal. I had a productive conversation with Mr. Cowan about getting started on some of these provisions earlier, which was appreciated. But I would be interested, Mr. Chairman, for you to lead the discussion on thoughts and your feedback. We've had this idea out there for some time, the purpose of which is correcting some of the problems with the existing home occupation ordinance and maybe helping some people bridge the gap from working in their backyard to being able to scale a business, and where that, how you define that, and, you know, when something should change from being a home occupation to something else. So I certainly would enjoy all of your comments.
Well, and Mr. Cowan, you want to go ahead and describe what y'all had a deep conversation about? I know you guys were leading it.
I don't know about that, but I can make some comments to a few things. And I think last meeting for the first workshop on this, I sort of asked the question, and I don't know if I got an answer on it or not. If I did, I guess I didn't like it because I'm going to ask it again. Is this, you know, seems to be one of those, like an ordinance amendment typically, and this one in particular, I think, kind of is something that it seems to in the past have lended towards being appointed to a subcommittee of the Planning Commission and sort of, you know, hacked through, because I mean these things can be a little time consuming or contentious, and I think, you know, it could, you know, like a small group working on it could make a lot of progress on, you know, refining that footprint that you've set and bringing it back, obviously, for, you know, the entirety of public comment, Planning Commission, comment revision, Board of Supervisors. But is that not, we intend on having this go start to finish through the Planning Commission?
I think that is between you, the chairman, and the Board of Supervisors, what you'd like to do with that.
Well, and I did see that it was put on there for a third workshop already as well.
This is the third time it has been here.
There's no, for sure, there's no, you know, no hope in wrapping it up too soon.
I don't think we're pressed for time,
Agreed.
but it is a directive that the Planning Commission was given, so we're going to keep putting it on the agenda until we make progress. Fun will be had by all, mandatory.
With that being said, Mr. Smith, I know you had some comments that you and I are both looking at other counties. Anything specific you want to say? Okay, then I would propose a straw poll between the members on going and creating a formal committee to review this right now between members, if that's something we'd agree to. Sound good to everyone?
As long as voting in favor of a subcommittee looking at it doesn't obligate you to be on that committee.
It's whoever is wearing a blue shirt on the committee the day of is chairman. I think that would be you and me again. No, I guess it'd be me. Dang it. All right. Well, even knowing that I could be potentially chairing another committee here, why don't we do a straw poll show of hands? Those in favor of creating a committee to review this particular amendment, raise your hand. All right, those against, raise your hand. I think we have everyone.
Mr. Chairman, if I could. So, yeah, I mean, it's in the Planning Commission's purview to do however you want to accomplish this, but I would tend to set an end date. This is the end of January, so February, end of March, or something, whatever you decide, but I would put an end date on it.
See, 60-day end date. That would give us at least 2 meetings monthly.
Would schedule you for the March workshop, Mr. Chairman.
Which, March?
If you took a 60-day option, I would schedule you for the March workshop to come back.
March, that would be the
I guess looking at the calendar would help.
18th.
Would be the 18th, yeah. So you're just a couple days shy.
Um,
Keep in mind that you've got sometimes difficulty in getting committees together.
Yeah,
Especially when you're gonna be out for a month in the snow.
yeah, tell us about it.
We can hope.
Then, yeah, let's be ambitious and shoot for the March meeting. Feeling guilty about being late usually gets people motivated a little bit more too, so. With that being said, are there any volunteers to head up this committee? I think hearing that.
I don't want chair.
Yeah.
to be on the committee.
All right.
Same, yeah, same.
I'll
participate.
throw that one under the existing, I think, agriculture and whatever committee I'm on. I'll take that one. Pete, you want to volunteer to be on that one then?
Yeah, I'll be on.
You do as well? That gets us 3, right? We can't do anything more than that? Is that correct? We can. It'll be advertised. Okay. Anybody else interested in participating post-election?
Just know if you do that, we're going to advertise for public meetings because then the planning commission is convening.
So not at Ball Top, okay. All right. Then I think we have at least 3 members, and anybody else? Feel free to speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Mr. Elliott, Mr. Cowan, and myself, then we'll. Okay. Thanks, Jim. And then March 18th, is that our feet to the fire date?
I would suggest that you have at least a pretty good draft
In the February?
to bring back to discuss in public.
Perfect.
That the sooner you can distribute it to everybody to put together their thoughts, the better. And, as a staff member, you certainly let me know how I can accommodate.
Thank you. All right, then, at the conclusion of that decision, any further discussion on the topic tonight, or should we table it for the committee members?
I would move to table, does that seem to be the most appropriate thing to do? I move to table case number ZOA-11-25-01. Ordinance amendment, second workshop.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded to table case number ZOA-11-25-01 until the committee works and provides it at the March 18th workshop. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then the last one, I hand this over to you, Mr. Nichols, for the proposed revision of Planning Commission bylaws, or is that
Sure.
on my shoulders?
At a previous Board of Supervisors meeting, my understanding is that they have tasked the Planning Commission to amend their bylaws to increase the number of planning commissioners from 7 to 8. So that is Article 2-1 in the bylaws.
Could I give a little background on that?
Please, sir.
So, in interviewing the applicants for the planning commission, we ended up with 3 folks that would contribute tremendously, we thought, to the planning commission. A lot of background, experience there. So our feeling was that we should nab the folks that are willing to do this while the talent is available. So that's how we came to that decision. I think everybody will be really pleased with the talent that we picked. That's the background, guys.
Thank you, Chairman, yeah. Any comment specifically from,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've
Go ahead,
got
Mr.
some
Smith.
cognitive dissonance working on this one. I don't like the idea of increasing the size. I honestly think that we'd be better off at 5. But that the balance tilts in favor of grabbing good volunteers when they present themselves. So I would reluctantly vote in favor of it.
okay?
Mr. Chairman, before we get into a real discussion on this, I have a couple questions I'd like to kind of put Hannah on the spot a little bit. First of all, since appointees to the Planning Commission and basically the size of the Planning Commission are in the purview of the Board of Supervisors and not the responsibility of the Planning Commission, is it appropriate that this particular statement be in our bylaws at all? To limit to the number of Planning Commission members?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, you are all right that it's, planning commissions, well, it exists by ordinance, or I'm sorry, by state code that it can be created, and it's here now. And it's to serve the Board of Supervisors and be an advisory body. I don't have a definite answer for you. I mean, there's part of me that's a little bit worried about just upending something that's been in there for a long time, but that doesn't mean it's the right answer.
Okay, that's leading into my question. Is it appropriate to have that in our bylaws since it is not something that's within the Planning Commission's control? It's strictly in the purview of the Board of Supervisors.
I mean, I guess it's in there as being sort of instructional, noting that it is come from the Board of Supervisors, that's what it should be, and it reflects that. But you're right, I mean, to the extent that the Planning Commission could pass an amendment that changes that number without input from the Board of Supervisors would be very strange, if not an ultra-virus act.
Okay, follow-up question.
Sure.
I don't remember ever making the amendment to change it from 9 to 7. I looked back in the minutes as far as I could find anything. There was never any such amendment made by the Planning Commission.
I thought, was it done?
The Board of Supervisors, I took a few notes here. January 10th of 2023 was when the Board of Supervisors voted to reduce the Planning Commission size from 9 to 7, and then reappointed 2 members whose terms had expired. There is nothing in the minutes of the Planning Commission indicating that there was ever any amendment made in that nature. The number changed somehow out of thin air, so somebody changed it, but we never made the amendment.
I can,
So my question is, I mean, we're voting to amend something that, as far as I can tell, was never amended to begin with. Is it possible that since it was never amended properly, that the original number of 9 is still valid and we would not have to do another amendment?
so, yeah, these are all good questions, right?
I knew you would like that.
Well, and some of this pre-exists me. I know that at one point it was 9 members, I'll say like 2020, that was in the bylaws.
Yeah, it was still in 2022.
And then in 23, it went from 9 members to up to 9 members,
Yeah, well,
was the language, I think, in that.
I think it's always been up to
And then 2024, it says up to 7 members.
I can tell you when the date
Somebody
was
said
changed here.
abracadabra and it was done, yeah.
What's that?
Steve, here's where I am. That's been in the bylaws ever since I've been on the planning commission. And if we do something and the board don't like it, they have the right to change it. I just don't see taking that out of there, because it's been there forever.
My point is that it was never actually changed by the planning commission.
I understand that. But my point is, it's what the bylaws say now.
Right, I feel like that one was, the last one was made during my, I'll I'll say lifetime as county attorney, which is fairly recent, where that got amended when those bylaws were adopted in the June of 2024. I'm going to answer your question with a question. What would you like to see be in here?
Well, I mean, my point is, there was never any official amendment made by the planning commission. So as far as I'm concerned, the number 9, up to 9, is still the valid number in the bylaws. Somebody else may have changed it, but the planning commission never amended that.
Hannon, I'll throw another question in there as well,
Yeah.
or even Chairman Yao. With it being 8, that's an even number, does it talk in the bylaws about a tiebreaker vote, or in case there's a deadlock?
Yeah,
vote?
so that's a different, a related but different issue that I think we ought to talk about also. I mean, the way it's written now. Okay. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah.
Mr. Carpenter?
To answer the question, Mr. Carpenter, let's say this came up, it was discussed a few times in 2024, but did come up on old business in June of 2024, was discussed by Commissioner Smith. Mr. Elliott made the motion to adopt the changes. I've got all the documents that outlined the number of changes that were made here. The motion carried with everybody. Mr. Elliott made the motion, Mr. Smith seconded, let's say all were in favor, and it was adopted with the change to 7.
Okay, so this was adopted.
June of 24.
As an amendment.
It was amended June of 24, yes.
Well, if anybody would feel better, then let's just have a motion that would change the bylaws to read thus and so, and as opposed to changing it from something to something. Just change it to read something.
Suppose we don't want to change it at all.
And
Well,
That's another option, I would think.
well, hey, I don't know where we'd go from that, Pete, but I know what the board wants.
And Mr. Wright, that does lead to my question. So, and I think you
Sure.
answered the first one, which was, does the planning commission have the right to change its bylaws? And I think the answer is yes.
Right.
I remember all the discussions. I just don't remember if we were talking down here, or they were talking up there. So-
Right.
And it was a relatively major overhaul. There were some small things along, my time here, and then it changed drastically and got much longer. So just on that question, yes, we have the right to amend our bylaws, and I assume in turn, the Board of Supervisors also can amend the planning commission's bylaws.
I would say that to the question of how many people are on the planning commission, the Board of Supervisors, it's in their,
At their
That's in
service,
the-
at their service.
squarely in their wheelhouse.
Yes, sir.
And so we can have it in our bylaws, but it's subject to higher authority.
Understood. So on that, and Mr. Carpenter, I almost called you Chairman Carpenter. Mr. Carpenter, I'm certainly, I'm pretty much done here, but my feeling is, just so the planning commission knows, and I can totally relate to the available talent. That's not something that's easy to find, especially when you're talking volunteers. Very hard to turn away and put in that position. It hurts. It's not ideal. If you love something, let it go and see what comes back. It's where I'm at. I'm for 7. I could be for 9, but 8 to me, I've never heard of any board in any situation with an even number. I'm sure it happens. That's great. If somebody doesn't come, we're certainly working with an even number, but for appropriateness, to Mr. Smith's point as well, 5, I think 7's fine. 9 would all be appropriate. What I would be voting to stay at 7.
And I guess my
Sure.
point of.
On the
Exactly.
even number?
Exactly. yeah.
So I think I've done a little bit of thinking on that one. So I think what controls it is what's in the bylaws as currently written. Let me see where it is. 8 TAC 2. So, I mean, the easy one is if somebody moves to approve something, recommends approval, it's a tie vote, and it fails, and then there's no recommendation for approval, right? If the recommendation's for disapproval, and that fails, like we're now in double negative world, what happens then? And so I think the answer, I mean, still means that nothing's been approved at the end of the day or recommended for approval. And I think your last sentence of there is what could capture it and say it's got to go through a couple of different votes to see if something breaks through. And if not, it's essentially the matter goes to the board as not being recommended. But even that could be, I don't know, cleaned up if you got 8 and it's going to be a 4-4 tie. Do you have to keep taking votes until you either declare, hey, we're not going to change anything here, or it's a yes or no? But I think that's up to you all as a deliberative body to decide if you want to change that.
Alan, did you say that it was the June 20th, 2024 that was when it was actually amended?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Carpenter. No offense, Mr. Whitman.
Well, we could find out tonight what happens with the tie.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't suppose there were 4 exceptional citizen volunteers to get us to 9. I think if I had a magic wand, it would be 9 versus, because I understand from conversations it was even 11 at one point, the planning commission, so,
It was.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, I'm in favor of more, because we didn't really like going from 9 to 7 to begin with, because it gives us, how shall I say this, more talent, or should I just say spread names?
And then just on the number, so I'm looking at Madison County, our ordinances, it's in the Division 7, which creates the planning commission. And this is Chapter 2, Article 3, which is boards, and then Division 7 is the planning commission. So it says, planning commission is hereby created by for the county, shall have all the powers and authority of planning commissions that state law allows. And then the next one's members' qualification. Planning commission shall consist of a number of members determined by the Board of Supervisors and appointed by the Board of Supervisors. And then that's it for the relevant part of this discussion. So to answer your original question, it's in there, and I'm not sure if it is anything that's valid or enforceable, the number of planning commissions that the bylaws state. But I don't pretend to have final say on all these things, so if there's other opinions, I'm happy to hear them.
So would a motion or any type of vote from the planning commission right now just be commemorative, I guess, at that point?
It would continue to be advisory.
Okay, so we can, okay. Unless we're deadlocked at 3-3.
Well put, Mr. Wright. Thank you.
I make a motion, we leave it like it is, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded to leave the number of planning commission members at its existing 7 as amended on June of 2024 meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Nay.
Point of order, Mr. Whitman, can we have show of hands on that one
Okay.
for our stenographer?
We'll redo the vote. Do I need to say it all again?
Just need to see who
Just say,
voted.
those in favor say aye by signify by showing your hands, raising your hands. All right. Those opposed?
Thank you.
Are we deadlocked? Was that 3-3?
No, 2-4.
It's 4-2. That's what I was hoping we would, to be honest. Okay, so seeing that that motion has failed, do any members have
I don't see where this is.
I think it's of no consequence.
Right.
If the ordinances say that the board
Decide.
supervisors shall appoint,
That's right.
that means they're our members. You have nothing to say whether they're seated or not, whether their vote counts or not. But a 4-4 vote going to the board doesn't mean jack anyhow, 'cause
So those are, okay.
And plus, the Board of Supervisors determines the number as well.
Well, since this isn't a board meeting, will it be at the next meeting then that would be determined? Or
At our next meeting, we will identify the 3 people that we're putting on the planning commission, yes.
yeah. So maybe
This
we'll have
coming
to,
Tuesday.
You want to
just
motion, Jim?
have an amendment to the bylaws so that we shall have the number of members that from time to time the board of supervisors shall appoint.
So, okay.
In 2023, that's what they did.
Yeah.
The Board of Supervisors meeting, they made it in the same motion, I think.
Mhm.
State code says it can be.
Sorry, state code says it can be, oh, sorry, Mr. Carpenter. Yeah, it's 5 to 15 is what state code allows.
Yep.
Okay, so there's a, all right. Then hearing that, do we need to make a motion then to recommend, does anyone have a motion they'd like to propose on recommending a change, future changes to amendments?
That has to be posted in advance, so
Oh, it does? That would,
in accordance with the bylaws, if you want to follow that provision.
Yeah, if it was
Okay.
unanimous tonight, then it doesn't. If there isn't, then it does.
Is there a motion that needs to be made to take this item off of our agenda that never should have been on here to begin with? Or are we just moving on?
Well, I think we agreed at the last meeting that it was going to be on this agenda, and they were going to waive formal notice.
yeah, the vote was, and so it's, okay. Yeah, so then.
So there's gonna be 8 chairs here on February 1st. What say you?
And eight bodies in the chair.
Correct.
Yeah.
Based on
Mr. Yao.
Yes, sir.
Point of order. I'm a little confused. How can you say that there's gonna be 8 chairs here until you have 3 more board members present? You don't know how they're gonna vote.
Yeah, we decided that already, yeah.
So you already.
We talked
decided
among
to have
ourselves and we were gonna have, huh?
8? You already decided to have 8?
Yes, that's
So
right,
why do we
'cause-
go through this function?
That's what I say, yeah. I mean, I thought this was gonna be, I thought we were gonna be gone 20 minutes ago, but
Mr. Chairman,
that's exactly right, Pete.
should,
Yeah,
Mr.
the
Smith.
board, because Mike and I were just talking, you know, we could say, okay, well, let's just go up to 9, but that's not what the board said at our last meeting. The board said up to 8, so I'm not gonna change that without the other 3
My question would be,
coming in.
how did you vote for 8, knowing that the bylaws wouldn't change with the planning?
Well,
It's the
to get
bylaws.
the, because the planning commission would change the bylaws to agree with what the board's desires are.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith, go ahead.
the Code of Virginia allows no fewer than 5, no more than 15. So why don't we say the planning commission shall consist of from 5 to 15 members as established by the
By the
Board of
Board of
Supervisors?
Supervisors.
All right.
Is that a formal motion?
It is.
Point of order, you'll have to give,
Notice on this one, public notice?
there you go.
Yeah.
So on your next agenda item, should you choose to do something different than what was offered tonight?
as a
So you could
workshop.
still do tonight and then change it, do
And
your
then change
notice
it.
now and change it to 5 to 15 to settle the matter later if you
Well, that-
choose.
That won't impact any of the new members being able to sit that day, okay. Um,
As a workshop, we can make that recommendation and then go from there.
I think that sounds adequate.
And I did hear Mr. Carpenter second that one, so the motion has been made per Jim's language to include text amendment saying no less than 5 and no more than 15 planning commission members per the discretion of the board. All those in favor with a show of hands, aye, raise your hand. Those against, show your hand, nay. Okay, I think that was 5 to 1. Okay, so that passes then. So that'll be on the next docket and then for public. All right. Next time. That's great, yeah. Should have gone to ball top first. All right, I think we're closed in on that new business, is that correct?
Yeah, so information and correspondence is where we are, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
If you all, if any of you have not done your Conflict of Interest Act disclosure of real estate forms, if you have not filled them out for this year, they are due February 2nd to Ms. Turner in the administrator's office. So if you've not done that, please make an effort to do that, because let's not put anything else on her plate to try to catch up later. Upcoming, unless there's other information correspondence from anybody else.
No, just a point of order on that one. She sent that email to everybody on Thursday, so you should have it in your inbox from her on the conflict of interest.
Yeah, and just a comment on that. This year, she has sent it out as a PDF, which is editable as you receive it. So it's easy enough to just download it, fill it in, print it out, and be done.
Okay, Mr. Nichols, thank you. And I guess we're up to the upcoming hearings.
Upcoming hearings, all right. So, February joint meeting, we have Mr. Mayor for his special use permit for the duplex. We will be having the Eden Ridge special use permit public hearing. At the end of the joint meeting in February, we will be having a Freedom of Information Act presentation by Mr. Wright. The next round of workshops, we have the Towers LLC will come back for their second workshop for the wireless communications facilities. And let's see, we have tabled, so we'll take that off the agenda for the home occupation and rural services ordinance amendment. We do at this time have 2 applications being prepared for preliminary development review committee. So do expect that you will have at least 2 first-time workshops. I expect they'll be pretty straightforward should preliminary development choose to refer them. But I think we'll have 2 coming up in February for that. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Any other items from the planning commission, staff or public? All right, final general public comment. Anybody? Is anybody online still? Are we? Nothing, no. Okay. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
All right, the motion is made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you all.